Is insert martial art any good for self-defense? Firstly, I dislike stylism. There's an entire volume of my Bullshitsu series of books that focuses on the problems with this particular form of martial arts tribal thinking. As my last podcast outlined, there is too much confusion inside and outside the martial arts world in defining self-protection to guarantee any individual school can offer such a service based on their name alone. Even so-called reality-based self-defense cannot be relied upon in this respect. I might justifiably warn a self-defense training seeker that a good proportion of Aikido and Tai Chi schools today subscribe to a dubious belief in the use of invisible energy as a weapon. It might be said about some schools, but not all, of the reality-based self-defense martial art of Systema. My old answer was that I couldn't say whether a particular style was any good for the reasons previously outlined, and it was largely down to the teacher. However, I appreciate this isn't a great guide. Therefore, I decided to boil it down to 3 simple criteria. Essential hard skills taught in any self-protection program had to include pre-emption, proactivity, and pressure testing. Before I go through my argument for the inclusion of these 3 hard skills, it is important to help you understand my working model. Experiences working with, studying and training under some of the best self-protection people in modern times has led me to the conclusion objective-driven training develops a robust behaviour pattern. As described in my Protecting the Frontline podcast episode, I look at martial arts cross-training as a linear pathway with many snaking detours running through it. Self-defense hard skills follows a similar model, except this time the detours are not choices, rather they're more like mud tracks you have slipped into after being off-roaded by that lunatic in the Volvo 4x4. My apologies to Volvo drivers. Now, rather than making an educated journey down this detour before remembering to return to the linear path, as you would have done if this metaphor was all about training, scrambling to get some traction on this mud so that you move back to the main pathway as quickly as possible. Everything is about getting back onto that pathway. Avoid the environment means you miss the lunatic 4x4 altogether. Defuse the situation in any way that stops a violent crime from occurring and you miss the 4x4. Anything after this point pushes you further off the road and into the mud. Another thing worth mentioning is that soft skills are present throughout my view of self-protection. They cannot just be neatly left in the pre- and post-fight stages. The in-fight presents an even larger battle to retain the right attitude, discipline, and to remain alert. Above all else, you must remain objective-driven. Pre-emption is a hard skill, but it is the final stage of a pre-fight and therefore is directly linked to soft skills. As Jeff Thompson once said, teaching someone how to hit hard is easier than teaching someone how to hit first. The preemptive strike, or action, relies heavily on attitude. Social conditioning and our response to the chemical cocktail we've come to call fear can make the average law-abiding citizen loath to act preemptively. However, tactically, it is the best option, and if done correctly, is legally defensible. A good self-defense teacher will emphasize, demonstrate, and illustrate these points, and reinforce this skill as a priority after you've satisfied all soft skills have been covered and his students understand that preemptive violence is a last resort after all other pre-fight options are exhausted. Teaching preemptive striking used to be a matter of controversy in the martial arts community. I say used to be, but there's still plenty of seminars and lessons I've taught in recent times to experienced martial artists who are surprised at the idea that the person who strikes first has the best chance of success in a violent altercation. Most are also unaware of how the law applies in such situations, often been brought up in the belief that self-defense meant fighting only after someone else had made the first physically violent action. However, it's fair to say that since the 1990s, a growing section of the martial arts community accepts the important role of preemptive striking and have adopted it as part of their teaching syllabus. The problem occurs in the assimilation of preemption into a reactive-based fighting method. The metaphorical weld is often an obvious scar on the entire teaching program. After preemptive striking has been taught, students go back to fighting from sparring distances and holding guarding postures, completely undermining what they've just previously trained. Kaplan's rule of instrument also crops up, and the fence is taught as if it were a static guarding posture rather than a concept for protecting one's personal space, engaging the physical intentions of a would-be attacker. I've even seen some teachers showing blocking techniques off the fence, completely ignoring the point of setting up a preemptive strike in the first place. I should mention that this isn't to discount the valid argument that success with reactions changes in accordance to the range of the attack. There have been tests conducted that show that the winner of many a fast draw pistol duel in the Wild West was probably won by the duelist who reacted to the other duelist's initial movement. However, when the range decreases, success is tipped in the favour of the person who preempts his attacker. Most altercations occur around conversational distance, where blocking tends to have a low success rate when tested under pressure. If you want to check my road metaphor, success with a preemptive strike means that you off-road the crazy 4x4 and continue on your journey.